We're recording now. Okay. We are going to be reviewing week 3 webinar, which is our review of, I believe it's chapters 2 and 3. So it is our exercise, foundations of exercise physiology. So it's the anatomy and the kinesiology and the tough stuff. So that's going to be our plan today in general. That being said, we're going to go through it faster than we did last time. Okay. But part of my next email to you guys will be to send you the links to every single webinar that we did do this past session so that you have that and you can go back and look at it whenever you want in the next week. And honestly, I leave that open. I leave that available for you guys, like for until my YouTube channel shuts down in the who knows when future. So you will always have access to those recordings. Thumbs up. Oh boy, we really are lagging, aren't we? Okay, that's definitely on my end for some reason. Okay, let's just keep plowing through and hope that this gets a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, first thing though on our list is before anybody leaves, okay, I just added something to our chat box. That is a student survey. There will be 2 student surveys for you to take. One is inside of the learning management system. Okay, it's the very last thing you do when you finish up turning in your last lab and you turn in your paperwork. Is everything shut down? I am shut. Okay. So after you turn everything in, it's the last thing that you do on there, and that has to do with, you know, the full experience, the course that you've had, the learning system that you've used. But the one that I just put into your chat box is one that we have developed specifically for what you guys experienced in this all virtual world that we have been in for the last 8 weeks, which has been different. It has been different. And to just be totally open and honest, it looks like we're going to be doing that again when we start June 8th for the next session. So you guys were, you know, you were the guinea pigs, and you were wonderful, cute little guinea pigs that were so adaptable and adorable, and it were so easy, which I appreciated so much, to let us just try new things and be creative and be resourceful. But we want to know how to make it even better. So that is really actually important. I want you to be honest. Okay. If there is anything that we have been with each other, right, it has been candid. And we talked about that before lab 3. Got to be candid with each other. And I need to know how to make it better because I know it wasn't perfect. I'm not naive enough to think that. Yeah. Okay, so I really do want you to go in and do that survey and let me know your ideas. Maybe you've got some ideas I haven't even thought about. That would be magnificent. Okay, that would be awesome. All right, we've got that out of the way. The other thing is, I know that the email that I sent out yesterday was a pretty lengthy email. And the scheduling system obviously didn't work out quite as smoothly as I had hoped. That's okay. I'm not sweating. I don't want you to sweat about it either. Okay. What has been working has been, now that we have some people in there already, we have just been talking and manually inserting you into the places that we are. I do want to share my screen with you briefly so you can get an updated look at what the scheduling looks like. If you've already been emailed your confirmation from me directly, don't worry too much about it. You've got it in there. Okay, so you should be able to see the grid right now. I do have one group of 4. I do not want to do any more groups of 4 because I need to get all of you guys done inside of an hour. Okay, so 3 is pushing it. Like that first group, don't worry about that. I'm working with them separately. But as you can see, we do have a couple more groups of 2, and poor Nune needs a buddy at 2:45 on Saturday, and Claire on Friday, if anybody is up for 1:30 p.m. on Friday. So don't worry, there's still plenty of time to get this figured out. All right, I just needed to spread it out, to be totally honest with you, because I can't do this for 10 hours straight on Saturday. I love you, but that would drive me crazy. That's part of the reason we needed to spread it out. You know, I want to give you guys a professional experience. I don't want to give you ragged, tired Erin. I want to give you fresh, ready to go, excited Erin. That's what you deserve. Also, we're doing it in groups because you shouldn't do this alone. You wouldn't do it alone in a live lab situation anyways. So that's very normal. So if you are on this call, and I know some of you have emailed me in the past, like couple of hours, okay, but before I even respond to you, just like take a look at this, because a couple of you have asked for time slots that I'm closing down, like 6 p.m. on Monday is closed, okay? All right, done sharing that. Claire, she says I can switch to 12:15 on Friday. It just wouldn't let me. Yeah, see, that was the thing. That was the problem with the scheduling system we had, is that only one person can sign up for a time slot, but really 3 of you, 2, 3 of you need to be in that time slot. So that was my bad. I own that. I didn't even think about that detail until after people started signing up. And then it was like, oh, crap. So, all right, Claire, we'll talk about that later. Stick around if you can at the end, and maybe we can smooth some of that out. Okay, the other thing was we're not going to do focus hour on Thursday, and that's because you guys are swamped right now, okay? We don't need another thing on the to-do list this week. But the subject was going to be continuing education. So I'll put together just an easy to read document with some links and some ideas for you that you can have, and I'll send that off to you when I get that finished at some point this week, okay? So that you at least have a starting point and a plan for continuing education. All right, the other thing is Thursday, I would like you to have all of your class design uploaded into the LMS system, okay? Technically, you don't have to have it turned in until Saturday at 11:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like everything else. I want you to put it in by Thursday night, okay? Because that is gonna help you stay accountable to the timeline you need to be on for this week. Yep, turn in everything that you have, okay? Your class design is the whole class from start to end. So that's like Thursday. And then of course, Saturday is the big day, 11:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I've said that to you guys like probably about 75 times in the course of this last like 4 weeks. Nune, we're working on it. Don't worry about it just yet. It will be taken care of. It's just a matter of somebody clicking some buttons on the backside, okay? I think she actually took care of it this afternoon if you haven't checked yet. Okay. Kelsey, you have a dumb question. How dumb? We're just gonna be honest. How dumb? Like scale of 1 to 5. Just ask it, it's fine. 3, okay, that's pretty good.
Well, so like I was talking to some of the girls that I have their numbers, and I don't know if it's like just me that I'm confused with it, but do we just type it in on like a Word document and then turn it in, or do we have to do it on a certain format that you want when we turn it into LMS?
You just turn it in however you have it. There's 2 ways for you to do it. One, there's a type in screen where if you have to type it in, like say you have it written in a notebook in hand or something, you can just type it up inside of that screen, and it gives you the screen to do that with, or you can change the font, you can change the size of the letters, all that. It's like a mini Word situation. The other option is to just upload a document that you already have on your computer. So if you have it in a PDF file, or if you have it in a Word document, or if you're really organized and have it in an Excel spreadsheet, you can upload that, okay? So those are the 2 ways that you can do it.
And then so I know in like that top area in the like AFAA school thing where it says like shortcuts, that LMS like navigation thing, we go through like that. I don't know why I'm doing that with my hands, but you go through that thing, right?
Yeah, do you guys want me to show you? I'll show you where to do it, okay?
Kind of.
That'll be helpful. And that's not a scale 3 stupid question. I'd put that down to like a 1 because those are legit questions, Ms. Kelsey. All right, pulling mine up. Sharing screen. And don't worry, I do see that there are more questions there. Maybe I will get to answer those as we explore this really quickly. Okay. All right. So here we are, March 2020. All right. So we're going all the way down. God, March, look at that, March 23rd. How long ago was that? That was like 5 years ago. All right. So you go all the way down. So now at the end here, these are the two little modules that you guys are working with now. All right, so we'll go into the May 11th module. Going down, down, down to the bottom. Okay, so as you can see in the highlighted, it's reminding you of the exact time everything's due. Okay, all of the graded materials. And here's your instructions. So you've got to do the final exam, and then you've got to submit your class design. I submit your teach back assessment. Okay. Okay. That's the document paperwork that you'll get after we do the teach back itself. So, all right. Graded activities at the very bottom. Obviously 1 is the final exam. Okay. Obviously I can't do it. I'm not keeping up with the activities. I know, worst student ever over here, but final exam. And then class design practical teach back. So let's click on it and you guys can get a really good check right here. So kind of just gives you a brief overview of what we're looking for. But I think you know all this stuff, yeah. Okay.
Erin, where do you upload it? I'm not seeing where.
Wait, pause. I'm getting there.
Oh.
I'm getting there. I'm not there yet. Okay, right here at the bottom, view, grade, all, oh, Nune, oh, you jinxed me. I'm just kidding.
I don't have it.
So yours will have, I know how to do this. I have to drag this. All right, Nune. Oh, look at you right there. I'm gonna log in as you, okay? We'll look at it through your eyes.
Okay.
Okay, here's Nune's stuff. All right, class design practical teach back. Add submission. Here it is. Okay, so.
Thank you.
So you can. Oh, they did change it a little bit. Okay, so you have to be able to download it. So just go type it into your Word document or anything like that. Okay. So it changed a little bit. And then click Save Changes. Okay, and that saves it so that it stays in the system. Sound good? Was that helpful?
Very, thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of a small little button, I know. Add submission. It's like this tiny little button that's yelling at you from the bottom. Add submission. And you're like, what? Where are you? Who's yelling at me? Okay, so that's that.
So there's not a special form to put the class in,
Correct.
you know, to
correct.
I don't
it's
know.
free. It's free. However you wrote it out.
So
yeah, you guys, it's however you wrote it out because you guys are all doing different formats. So the way that you're structuring it will look different from person to person. That's why there's no standard form. Okay.
How descriptive do we need to get with what we're writing? Like, do we just say the exercise we're doing and for how long kind of thing? Is that enough?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, so mine says was due like 200 days ago. Like it said it was due like way down yonder in 2019.
Okay, you guys,
so I don't know.
if that is your situation, it's just an internal computer thing. So send me an email separately and I can get all of that taken care of for you. Yeah, it's just an IT issue. Nune had that issue today and it's already been fixed. So yep. So if that has happened to you, if it already says due date is passed and it's not letting you turn stuff in, then send me an email and I will forward those all to the person that can handle it. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back over to the chat and see what other questions we've got. Kaylin, I see that. I'll come back to that when we're done with class. I have a problem with activity 1.4. I couldn't drag and drop. Okay, so usually the problem, if you cannot answer like a quiz or an activity, usually it has to do with you need to go in and clear your cookies out of your browser and you need to shut down your browser and you need to restart your computer. That almost always takes care of that issue. Okay. If you've done all of those steps, then email me about it. Okay, but do those basic steps first. If you don't know how to dump your cookies, a really quick Google search will tell you how to do it. It's easy. Once you read the instructions, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's easy. No big deal. Okay. Sometimes what happens is your computer has too many cookies, and it's like a log jam in a river almost, where it just kind of stops it from working very well. Like the water can still get through, but not very well. So you just clear the log jam away, and it can go again. Yes, Cece, where's that class design template? So there wasn't a template. Was that answered for you? Okay.
Mine's good now, Erin. I don't know what happened. I just checked.
Oh, okay. Maybe you had it
Doesn't say
open
it was
on your,
due 200 days ago.
maybe you had it open on your browser. Because I did have IT look at your accounts
Mhm.
today. That's why it was curious. So it is fixed. Okay. Jillian, has anyone ever failed to teach back? Okay. So let me help you guys understand. So although you have been getting grades A, B, C, D, E, F throughout this whole thing, and really a lot of it is kind of either A or F. It's kind of strange. Have you noticed that? The real truth about this, you guys, is at the end, it's pass or fail. It's pass or fail. You show up and you pass. Okay. So I really don't want you guys to have like high levels of anxiety about this. It's not like I'm going to be sitting here with my rubric, writing down every little point and every little grade. And no. So the whole point of this Teach Back, my darlings, is just to prove that you've put some work in and that you've learned and that you've grown, that you have valued this time, that you've got some skills you didn't have 8 weeks ago. It's not going to be perfect. Don't worry about that. What happens if you screw up in the middle of your Teach Back? Just keep going. Just keep going. It is not a big deal, okay? Your rubric will be, I will fill it out while we're doing it, okay? And a rubric is just a grid. If you're a teacher, you know this. A rubric is just a grid where there's some descriptions of what has happened during your Teach Back. And I start circling where I've seen skills appear and where we need to start inserting new skills next time, okay? And you will all have things on there that you will have to work on. Okay, but you'll also all have a lot of really wonderful things happening too. Okay, so that piece of paper will be helpful for you to keep growing. But if you show up and do it, you pass. Okay, so don't worry. No, Jillian, nobody's ever failed. That at least
I was just wondering, thanks.
Yeah, I want you guys to feel good about that. Okay. Okay, so that was another big thing. So that's like Saturday, we need to get all that stuff turned in, and now we've gone through the steps of how to turn that in our little virtual world. Okay, and everybody's starting to sign up for their Teach Back times. I know, it's so exciting. Okay, we're gonna move into our review now, unless there's any last questions about the things we have discussed. No new questions, because we'll wait for the end for the new questions. But any questions about stuff we've already covered?
Good.
So yeah, Peggy, your nonverbals were helpful right there. They were helpful. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to say I'm drinking LaCroix. Did you guys bring your cocktails with you for our last virtual webinar? If you did, show them, that's cool. If not, it's all good. I have committed to a month of sobriety. Yeah, let's just say my husband is not pleased because I made him do it too.
Oh, wow. And during quarantine, no less.
Yeah. Well, luckily it's going to end on his birthday. So he's like, fine, we'll make it. So I have my LaCroix, like a fancy suburban white girl.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay.
I have a CPR question for anybody who already did it.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's address CPR in case some of you guys are going to have to go at the end because at the least we're going to have the review recorded. All right, so the CPR, we are finding that, and you guys really, this is the first time we've used this company. It was just an opportunity we had to get you guys through CPR certification without having to actually be in a building. Oh, Ariel, good. You're on, girl. You explain.
Am I muted? Okay. Hi. So I don't know about anybody else, but I took the first portion of the CPR online through that link on the LMS for the first aid. It took forever. So when we got that email, I thought it was just going to be as simple as, you know, emailing them and they would be able to give us the date for the virtual. Turns out that wasn't the case. I tested out, you have to test out of their test, which is basically the one that you did on the Red Cross already. And then you have to call them because they make you pay not the full price. So that would normally cost $32. They'll charge you $10 just to get the certification in order to pay for the virtual, and they'll send you the mannequins, etc. That was a really weird way of explaining it, but I can go back if anyone isn't clear.
Okay, so you still had to get the mannequin. Did you actually pay for the mannequin, or is it a mannequin rental?
I did.
So
it's $40. Yeah. I don't know if it's for the mannequin, but basically in order to schedule the virtual test out, you have to purchase the mannequin kit and they send it to you. But you don't really purchase it, you just rent it.
You rent it, so you're sending it back?
Yeah.
Oh.
I hope. I don't want that thing.
I know. I thought that was weird. I was like,
So
well, that seems very weird during COVID too. It's like we're doing CPR for crying out loud. Like this is a health related thing. That seems very strange to me. I don't know. I'm just saying.
well, it's a piece of
I mean,
plastic.
Ariel, I
Clean it.
totally, like, I'm glad you talked to them. Thank you so much. So you're saving people phone calls. So appreciate it. That's just so
Yeah.
odd.
I was just wondering how much you paid total, and then I was wondering about how long you think it took, just so I can plan my day. And I was gonna, since I'm already working for Lifetime, I had a set up to go do it at Lifetime. So I just wondered if I should just wait or what the best route was.
Basically, I took the test last week. I think it was the 6th. And then so took that. I scheduled the virtual and paid for they call it like a sumo kit, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically the mannequin. So that was $40. And then today I paid an additional $10. I should receive the mannequins by tomorrow, sometime in the next couple of days. And then my test out is the 22nd or 23rd. So I just wanted to get it out of the way. I didn't want anything to prevent me from being able to take
It's a little bit different if you do the whole thing through pro training. Like the course is different than the first part that Ariel took. So I did the whole thing through pro training, and I think it took me like an hour and a half. It was super quick, super easy. And then I had like the same sumo whatever kit coming with the mannequin on Thursday, and I scheduled my virtual like test out for it. And I think it's like a Skype call or something like that, where they do essentially what would be the in-person part through a web call. I don't know about the mannequin, if you return it or not. Maybe when we get it this week, we can send an email out and let you guys know. I'm not sure about that.
I think it's a one-time use. At least the one I got is a one-time use. You can just toss it.
So awkward to put in the trash, but that's great.
So the Lifetime link that you got there, that Emily, or not, why am I thinking your name is Emily? I know your name, Erin. The link, it's fine. It's my Monday, guys. So the link that you, Erin, emailed us out a few weeks ago, can we just take it off of that link and just do the whole thing and just be done instead of going on like 5 different links? Because it seems like everybody's doing something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to pay more.
Yeah. And the reason we had to do that was because we were trying to work around the fact that some of you guys already did the virtual portion of your CPR training. And that's what those extra links were for. But it sounds like if you just do the whole thing through them, like, you know, whatever, that's just the easiest way to do it. Now, and I did talk to Amanda on the phone a little bit today too, because, you know, if you're in a lifetime employee, and I've told you guys this before, once you become an employee at Lifetime, you get it done for free. And the question Amanda asked me is, you know, like what do you recommend I do? Well, I can't, it's going to be really up to you guys. And it's like, it's really up to you guys if you want to just like one and done and get all this stuff done and off of your to-do list and you spend the money, or if, you know, if money's tight and you like are like, okay, well, maybe that's not the right route to take for me right now, then put it to the side and get through this week. Okay. And you can wait. So the question that's popping up is, how long do we have to take? You technically have up to a year to take your AFAA exam. Okay.
Oh, that's what.
You do. You have up to a year, but, you know, let's just be honest. Okay. Best practice is not to wait a year to take it, because the chances that you pass are going to decline. You're going to forget crap unless you're really good about staying on top of your studying. So it's really up to you. Now that we know more about this company too, I mean, it'll be better for the next group that comes through. It's just not a company I had ever used before. And it was handed to us.
For
I
your
will
real.
Say it again.
Sorry, I was going to say that I will say, just to give you some feedback about the company, I've had my CPR certifications on many different occasions, and the content of this one was very good in my opinion.
Really?
Like, they put it together in a very good way. It was not the like some of it's cheesy, but it was a lot less cheesy than what I've seen before. I thought it was put together really well and was actually an engaging hour and a half.
Oh.
Not like, yeah.
I agree.
The Red Cross one was also really good. I was really impressed with their like virtual trainings, but it was very time consuming. I think it was like double that amount of time, probably like 3 hours.
Yeah, I've done that one before, and the amount of videos that you have to watch is just it's excessive. Okay, that's good feedback, and I want to hear that stuff. Yeah, I do want to hear that stuff too. So if you are having some experiences like that, there will be a place for you at the end of the survey too. Like if you don't want to say anything right now, that's fine. But at the end of the survey, talk about all those things too. There's kind of like an open question at the end of the survey that's like, how could we have made this better? Like talk about the CPR thing. If you know more about it, whether you like it or not, whether we should recommend it moving forward or not. Because if it has good content, but it's a pain in the ass, then, is it worth it? I don't know. Maybe we can find something else to give to the next group too, if you have any ideas. Okay, that was a helpful conversation. I am still anxious to find out, number one, what this mannequin looks like. Paige, did you already throw it out? I'm imagining. No.
I'm still waiting.
Definitely pictures. I'm so
It
freaked
is
out.
the weirdest thing though. I Googled it and I was like, what is this?
Okay, I want to know now. So we all need to see this thing when you send it out. And we need to still find out if this thing is returnable or if you literally throw the baby in the trash.
So like for instance, if you do the Lifetime one that Aaron and Cece sent it to me, but the one that Aaron sent out, so you do that, you still have to buy the mannequin and test out.
Yeah. So that one's the more expensive one. So the mannequin.
Does anybody know the difference? Like, is it like $20 of a difference, or?
There's like 3 things. So like if you do first aid through Red Cross and then you wait and do your test out portion when the club opens with Lifetime, it's either going to be $0 or $15, depending on whether you're an employee. If you do the free Red Cross and then you want to do the virtual test out so that you can take your AFAA exam, it's going to be $50. If you do the whole thing through pro training, I think it's $72.
Oh, I was thinking it was going to be like way more. Okay, that's fine.
So
with the mannequin and everything too?
The other thing I'd like to know is, do you get the $40 back if it's a rental, once the rental goes back?
No,
because it's gone.
I think that you're really paying for the virtual test out too.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe The Maniki, whatever Maniki you get, maybe you keep that for the, you know, if you need to renew yourself, like if you're working on your own. I don't know, I'm thinking.
Maybe. So, and the other, like, the other factor for a lot of us too, which is why I can't really give a great recommendation for each of you individually, is how soon is my club opening up? Because we opened up OKC and the Oklahoma clubs, and Texas is kind of coming next. And I know Colorado and Minnesota are kind of on the cusp, but you know, California and Illinois, like I'm not going to step foot inside of a club until end of June at the very earliest. So yeah, Vic, Plano on 5/18. Yeah, buddy. Okay, oh my God, it's already 37 minutes into the hour.
How about Boston?
Okay, am I still lagging? I am, I can hear it. Okay, buckle up and bring your questions to this review session. All right, buckle up, like we're going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're all in quarantine. All right. Lifetime Academy Week 3 review. All right. Human movement system. This one's super easy. You all know this, okay? Nervous, muscular, skeletal. 2 pieces to the nervous system. Central, peripheral. Here is what a neuron looks like. Know the names of the pieces of the neuron. It is on your final exam. I know I went through and took a little bit of it just to make sure I still knew what I was talking about. All right, neuron, dendrites, cell body, axon, synaptic terminals, end to end, electricity, zap, zap. That's how it happens. All right, mechanoreceptors. Remember proprioception? Body awareness. Then we've got muscle spindle and Golgi tendon organs. I hope you guys will never forget the detail that I gave you on the Golgi tendon organs and that it all makes a ton of sense to you. Remember, one of them protects you from hurting yourself when you're needing to recruit too many muscles, right? And one of them protects you from overstretching the muscles and the tendons and all that other stuff, okay? Know the pieces of the muscle. Know the pieces of the muscle, okay? Know that the myofibril is inside of the muscle, okay? Understand what fascia is and where it is in the body. Basically, it's everywhere. Okay, it's everywhere. Chicken skin, remember that? Not the skin, but the white film. I ruined a chicken breast for you forever. Myosins and actin. Okay. Chat. I want to stay on top of the chat today. Oh, okay, good. Thanks, Danielle. That's helpful. But if I am lagging, it's okay. I'll just yell at the kids again. Really, I don't mind. Mom of the year. All right, muscular system. Remember, these are the behaviors that they have, and the pictures describe it as well as possible. Extensibility, being able to stretch, elasticity. It's coming back at you. Irritability, it responds to stimuli and the ability to develop tension. So it can actually work. It can do work. Favorite picture of the whole course right here, all 8 weeks. It all comes down to this, my friends. Type 1 muscle fibers, okay? Type 2 muscle fibers. Looking at this picture, burn this picture into your head and it will give you all the answers that you need for any questions on these, okay? 1 is aerobic. You know what? Fingers up. Which type is aerobic? 1 or 2? Anaerobic is then which one? Type 2. Okay, which one has more capillaries? Don't be shy, you got a 50-50 shot. More capillaries, okay? Why does it need more capillaries? Because it uses oxygen as a fuel. It's using a ton of oxygen / aerobic, right? Oxygen, that's just a fancy word for oxygen. Okay, and the only way to deliver more oxygen to those types of muscles is to deliver it through the blood system. In order to do that, you need more capillaries, okay? That's why. All right, and which one has less mitochondria? Mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Less mitochondria. Less mitochondria, okay? It doesn't need as much of it to operate because the fuel system's different. This one's pretty obvious, okay? Which type of muscle fiber is prone to growth? Growth. There we go, 2, okay? All right, so remember this picture, and it will give you the answers if you just stop and think about why, like how we ran down which one has more capillaries. Well, why? Why would a muscle need more capillaries? Then break it down, build through that path. Well, because blood carries oxygen and this type of muscle fiber needs more oxygen to operate, okay? Just go through the path in your head. Okay, in our muscular system, remember we have an agonist, that's the primary mover, the synergist, the assisting primary mover, and the antagonist, the opposing prime mover, right? You know that nothing is ever working in isolation when we are using our body, okay? There's always something working against it, with it, all the time. So we went through that, did our examples, should be thinking about that, and you can even use that to cue when you are teaching a class. You can educate your people on what the synergists are, okay? If you're doing a push-up, yeah, you definitely are using your chest muscles, but what else are you using, okay? Biceps, triceps, delts, both anterior and posterior, okay? You should be using your lats. You should be squeezing your glutes. You know, you've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Nothing ever works alone. Here's the beautiful dancing skeletons. Exercising, bone density, hand in hand. We want it, right? Okay, just like the nervous system, 2 big pieces to the skeletal system, the axial and the appendicular. That will be a question for both of those, so know that. Okay, the question will go something like, what part of the skeletal system includes the pelvic girdle, the shoulder girdle, and the arms and the legs? The appendicular skeletal system. Now you know, okay? All right, joints. 3 different types. Fibrous is immovable, okay? Like after the baby's skull fuses together as it becomes an adult, your skull doesn't have movable joints, but the baby did, okay? But those were joints at one time. They don't move anymore. Cartilaginous, semi-movable, hopefully your spine, hopefully, unless you're in the Cirque du Soleil. That might be a different story, good for you. I will never do that, but so those are the ones that are semi-movable, okay? Then the synovial, we have mostly synovial joints in our body. Slide them on 14. 80% of all of our joints are synovial. Understanding the joints and the way that they move is actually really important for you as a group fitness instructor to help prevent injury, to help diagnose kinetic chain dysfunction on the spot, and to understand your own body, because as you go through this career, you're going to have some injuries, some overuse situations as well. So understanding your joints is actually a pretty big deal. All right. I will give you my study hack for how to remember this, okay? We've got tendons and ligaments that are helping hold our muscles and our bones all together in a variety of ways, okay? The hack is, and some of you probably know it, the tendon, muscle tends to bone. Muscle tends to bone. Muscle tends to connect to bone, right? And then you just have the leftover, the ligament, bone to bone. Okay? That's how you're going to remember that. Okay. Length tension relationships. Muscles need to be the proper length. This is part of why we warm up and why we stretch at the end as well, okay? We don't want things overstretched. We don't want them over tight as well. So prepping your muscles before you work out gets them to work at the appropriate tension and length. And then stretching them at the end helps give them that elasticity that we want to keep having. Remember Gumby. Force couple relationships, okay? This is when all of our muscles work together in groups, and that makes fluid and powerful movements happen. Okay, a golf swing is a prime example of that. Your whole body needs to be working together well to do a nice golf swing. If you've ever golfed, you know, right? Reciprocal inhibition. Reciprocal inhibition. These words, reciprocal inhibition, they will be on your test. Okay, understand what this is. So not only just understanding the definition of it, but really understand what it is, because that's actually going to help you in your real life career, as well as help you get through your exam. All right, if you understand really truly what something is and how it affects the body, then you already have the definition. Okay, you don't even have to memorize the definition if you really understand what it's doing. So simultaneous contraction of one muscle and the relaxation of its agonist to allow movement to take place. Okay, thinking of your bicep curl, reciprocal inhibition. One is on, one is off. Your tricep cannot be on and flexing in order if you are going to move in this direction. And then the opposite way is true. Your bicep cannot be on and flexed when you're straightening your arm. It literally can't. It's like trying to keep your eyes open when you sneeze. Can't do it. Okay? So understand what that means. Get it in your soul. Kinetic chain dysfunction. You will be dealing with this so much in your everyday life. So much in your everyday life. All right, remember what we talked about with lordosis, right? Prissy little lord with his behind sticking out. Okay, kyphosis. That's what we have the most of. Scoliosis. Not always obvious. You will not be able to diagnose that. You're not a doctor. Okay, but lordosis and kyphosis are things that you can help with. And it's okay if you type questions into the chat box during this. Like if something pops into your head when I'm on a slide, if I'm going so fast that you don't have time to get it out, put it in the chat box. I can see it. I've got it open next to me, okay? All right. If we have kinetic chain dysfunction, basically all this stuff happens, okay? All the bad stuff happens with your body. Your nerves don't work right. The communication lines throughout your whole body don't work right. The muscles don't work right. Matter of fact, some of the muscles that are supposed to turn off don't turn off, or vice versa. Some of the muscles that are supposed to turn on don't turn on. Primary example, gluteus maximus. Okay, most Americans do not know how to appropriately engage and activate their glutes. They don't. Ask any physical therapist, and that will be the number one thing they say about it. All this leads to pain and injury, overuse. It's good to know this stuff. So here's some contributors, right? I'm not even going to read this, but just pay attention in your everyday life to where you might have a kinetic chain dysfunction contributor, and bring that into the studio with you when you're teaching. Understand why people might be moving the way that they move. All right, cardiorespiratory system. Understand how this works, okay? I think most of us have pretty much got it locked down that we have heart, blood vessels, blood, lungs, respiratory passages. That's pretty simple, right? We've got arteries and veins, okay? Which ones lead to the heart and which ones away from the heart? Know that. And then really understand this. Understand it. Don't just memorize it. Like, think about it. Digest everything that happens, even when you're taking a breath and feeling your own heartbeat. Like, focus on what's happening, okay? If it is in an artery, right, it has got all the oxygen in it, it's got nutrients in it, okay? And it's going out into the body. If it's in a vein, it's coming back in. It's coming back in. So this is what it looks like. And it only gets tricky in between when it comes back to the heart, goes to the lungs, comes back to the heart, and then to the body. That's where it gets a little tricky. So think really hard about that, okay? It's coming in through the superior vena cava, okay? That's the biggest vein in your body. It is the yin and yang to the aorta. So the aorta is the big artery. The superior vena cava is the big vein, yin and yang. It comes into the right atrium. Remember, the atriums are always where we come in. That's a pretty easy one because our houses have atriums in them, and that's where we enter houses. So just think about that. So it's always coming into the atrium. Then it goes into the left ventricle, and that's kind of like the mudroom, where it hangs on for a second, okay? and then it goes back out. Now, you'll notice it comes in the superior vena cava, goes through the atrium, the right ventricle, and then it goes out the pulmonary artery. So arteries are always leading away from the heart, even if they don't have oxygenated blood in them, right? Because that blood that came in through the vein isn't oxygenated, doesn't have nutrients in it anymore. It needs to go dump its crap, but it's still going through the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary is towards the lungs. Pulmonary is lungs, right? Respiratory. That's what that means. Pulmonary artery. So now it's going to the lungs, away from the heart, goes through the lungs, switches up all the nutrients and the oxygen, and now it's coming back towards the heart. Okay, so now it's in a vein. Now it's in the pulmonary vein, even though it has oxygen and nutrients in it. So remember that the whole definition of a vein or an artery actually doesn't have anything to do with whether it's oxygenated or unoxygenated. It has to do on which direction it's heading, away from or towards the heart. All right, then it comes in through the pulmonary vein, hangs out in the atrium again. Hey, welcome back to the hotel. Goes down into the mudroom, the left ventricle, okay? And then it heads out through the aorta to go out to the body. Okay, so just understand the process and understand why things are the way that they are. Why are they named the way that they are? You need to know this, just memorize this. Heart rate, stroke volume equals cardiac output. Okay, because they're going to throw some other versions of this at you. So no, heart rate, stroke volume. Blood, awesome stuff. Does a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, understand what it does, know what it does. It also regulates body temperature and acid-base balance. We forget about that one. Okay, and it also protects you, has part of our immune system in it. Okay, not all of it, most of our immune system is in our gut. Okay, but it does have our immune system in it a little bit, and clots keeps us from bleeding out of small things. All right, here's that respiratory system. Okay, know the little pieces from bigger to smaller. Okay, understand that. It's a good thing to know right now during coronavirus anyways. Been seeing it all over the news and stuff. So know what happens when the blood comes through. What do the lungs do? How do they affect you? And then think about, like, how does it affect my everyday job as well, right? We're always trying to bring it back to practical knowledge as well, because none of this is any good to you if you can't use it in your classes. Why do I need cardiorespiratory workouts? Well, so that my lungs are more efficient at doing this whole process, so that my heart is more efficient at this process, so that I can move more oxygen into all of my body parts more efficiently. Okay, that's what it comes down to. All right, moving on. Chapter 4, integrated fitness. This was not something that we wanted to go through, was it? No, that was not. It was chapter 3 was the big one. Let me pull up this one and make sure we're not missing anything from chapter 2. God, you guys, yeah, my internet is slow. That's it. I'm going to have a phone call with my internet company later. Okay, the first stuff wasn't a big deal. Okay, chapter 2, foundations of exercise science. This was the other stuff, okay? So here we go, talking about that kinetic chain. Again, that is the combination and interrelation of the nervous, muscular, and skeletal systems. You do need to know that, okay? Know what the kinetic chain itself is. We talk about it in a big, grand way, but it is a thing. It is a thing. It is a way to talk about how all of our body systems work together, really. Nervous, muscular, and skeletal systems, okay? I'm not going to go through all of this, but know what it looks like to have good posture and bad posture. So, so the guys, the pictures there, okay, everybody pay attention. 1, 2, and 3. Which one is kyphosis? Which one is kyphosis? 1, 2, or 3? Good. 3. Yep. Got little quizzes. I should have been doing this the whole time. I should have just been shooting this stuff at you the whole time. Are you paying attention? Planes of motion. Yep, let's just review planes of motion, okay? We've got the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, and the transverse plane. Transverse is the easy one, right? That's the easy one. We're just rotating. We're crossing the midline. We're looking around for our, you know, dropped purse. That's what we're doing with that one, okay? But sagittal. Remember, sagittal is like Sagittarius. That's the archer. What direction would you be shooting a bow and arrow? This direction, okay? So that sagittal plane is moving forward and backward, okay? Understand what movements fit into that plane of motion. And then frontal is when we're going side to side. That's when the hallway only goes side to side, okay? So the jumping jacks and the side lunges. Just know what those are, and then your practical application with those 3 planes of motion is make sure that during your workouts, you are attending to all 3 in your plan, okay? Because that's how we move in real life. We never move in just one plane of motion. All right, so this stuff is important to know in that you need to know what these examples of joint movements are describing. There will be quite a few questions that revolve around, if I have flexion of this muscle, then what would be the extension for that one? So read the definitions, sure, absolutely, get that going, understand that, but then start thinking deeper about how does that word, supination, pronation, eversion, inversion, how do all of those apply to other places? Like, and think specifically about something, right? And remember, adduction is bringing together, abduction is letting it go apart. That's an easy one. Adding it together, ADD, adduction. Okay, lateral flexion, right there, it's got some clues in it. If you forget in the middle of the test what that really is, it's got some clues in it. Lateral, okay, you should know, is a fancy word for to the side. So lateral, now you're going, okay, so it's to the side, lateral flexion. Okay, so I'm flexing something to the side. So you can break this down. Why isn't there a clear, definitely, Ariel, come off mute.
Okay, sorry guys, this is why I don't type on my iPad. Why isn't there a clear definition of pronation and supination? Like, it's different for when it's your foot versus your arm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that.
Okay, so think about it this way. So when you're in a supine position, what are you doing?
Your
whole body.
You're on your back. What?
Yeah, your whole body. So if you're in the supine position,
you're laying on your back.
No.
What? Oh, what?
Flip.
You're on your stomach.
You're on your stomach. That's the
Okay.
supine position. Okay. That's your foundation for understanding supination. Just hang on to that, right? You think about that position that you're in. Okay. So it's something you do when, like, you're doing Supermans, for instance, right? Okay. So then pronation, the prone position is when you're laying in bed, when you're laying on your back. That's the prone position. Okay, so that's your base, and that's how you're going to remember kind of where pronation and supination are coming from.
Okay.
Okay, so if we have supination of the ankle, yep, do it with your body.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. It's your foot is pointed.
Yes.
Right? Okay. I get that. That makes sense now.
So break that down a little bit. That's where I want you guys to go with things, because now you have a foundation that you can build on, where if you get lost and flustered in the middle of your test, because it's going to happen. I got really flustered during the test when I had to go through questions that involved these words in particular, because it's almost like putting together an equation that you have to think about. It's like a word equation. Like,
I like the definition, but I also like the logic. Like I haven't ever heard it broken down like that.
Yeah, and that's
like,
how I think about it. Yeah. It's a word play. You have to just build off of what you know about the words. And so, and I see we got some things going on. Supination. Yeah, Shannon, Superman's think visually. Supination. Yep, that's good. Ethan, test timed always. Is the hardest thing for me. Anyone have a technique? That's kind of a bigger question. Let's save that for a little bit, and then we can share a little bit at the end here too. Susan, quick question. Yes, come off of mute, darling.
So I have a quick question on, it was in one of the quizzes, and the question was, I'm just trying to figure it out. Which of the following is a movement in the transverse plane? Okay. And the correct answer is the forearm pronation. So I'm just, how is that in the transverse plane?
All right, forearm, what's it say? Forearm pro?
Yeah, forearm pronation in the transverse plane.
Wait, forearm?
Forearm.
Forearms.
It says forearms, F-O-R-E.
Okay, number 4. Okay, well.
No, not the number 4, F-O-R-E.
F-O.
So I'm just trying to understand how, I understand the transverse plane, I just don't understand that question and how the forearm pronation, which I get what that is, how that's in the transverse plane.
Well, let's figure that out. Do you remember what the other options were?
Yeah, so it's lateral raise, walking, and running. So walking and running are obviously in the sagittal plane. We know that.
Yeah.
A lateral raise is going to be in the frontal, right?
Yep.
So I guess by process of elimination, but I don't understand.
Yep. And that's, you're going to have to do that.
But anything, the way that I read that, sorry, Erin, the way that I read that, like, yeah, at the end of the day, transverse is anything that's going across the planes. Like, that's what I think of. I think of rotations immediately. So that's how I was understanding forearm pronation. It was the only one that made sense because you're having to rotate your forearm a different way in order for that to, so that was the only answer that could make sense because that was the only one that involved some sort of rotation, and that would be equivalent to a transverse movement, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, and you guys, that's going to be a skill that you're going to have when you're going into this test too, is like, for instance, I would have struggled with that one too. I have no problem admitting that to you guys. But what you want to do then is on this list, this gives you some help, right? Pronation, the transverse plane, generally speaking, right? But then what really sold it for you is that the other 3, you knew, girlfriend, you knew that those were in the other planes of motion.
Yeah, I got it right. I just didn't understand it. And I'm thinking if there's other questions like that, what am I missing? You know, why am I not understanding that? So I just wanted some clarity. But
that's okay.
Yeah,
this is what that's supposed to be. I know I'm kinesthetic, so I have to like sit there and like feel it all out. Like
Yeah.
I looked like an idiot when I was taking my test trying to figure out all these questions. I was like, they probably thought I was like having a fit or something. But use all of these skills as you go through this, just for your test as well. You know, process of elimination, parsing out the words, thinking about the processes behind things. All that stuff's going to help you at least get through these questions. And a lot of this information, you guys, it's not going to be concrete inside of your brain until you start using it regularly. Okay. It's going to start making more sense as you start moving more and understanding it when you're teaching it and balancing all of that out in your classes. So I would spend a decent amount of time trying to understand this as much as you can right now. And then, you know, and keep moving. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
It's my worst part, all this playing, and I think I need to practice this. Yeah.
And it's okay. Don't worry. You're not alone, baby girl. Oh God, no. This was the toughest thing for me too. I mean, I second guessed myself left and right. Another quick test taking thing for you to do, and you can practice this on your final exam, is you can flag a question and you can come back to it. Okay. So really what you should be doing is getting through it one time and answering all the things that you know really well and really fast. Get that done. Get those out of the way. Flag the ones that you want to come back to, and then spend some more time coming back to it. Because a lot of times too, it'll start, as you read other questions, it'll start jogging your memory, and it'll start creating new paths for you to think about the questions that you didn't feel so hot about the first time through. And then you can spend more time on those questions that you flagged, doing those steps, process of elimination, breaking down the word, breaking down what they're actually asking. Okay, that's a big test thing for you guys to do on your final exam for this. And then you'll use that process in your AFAA exam. Okay, isometric contraction. ISO, right? The word ISO sounds like isolated, right? And even though we know that there's never truly anything as isolation, it sounds like isolation. So if it's an isolated movement, it's just out there by itself, okay? It's out there by itself. It's isolated. It's not moving. It's like somebody's stuck in an ice hut in Antarctica waiting for rescue to come. They are isolated. Okay, so it's just there. You're just holding it. It's contracted. You're hanging on to something. It's contracted, but it's not mobile. Okay, it's not moving around. So somebody's in Antarctica, but he's not moving around. And then concentric, okay, is when it is flexing, concentrating. You're concentrating that muscle. You're making it shorter and bringing it together. You're concentrating that muscle. And eccentric contraction is, now it's getting weird. Now it's stretching out and it's starting to get a little eccentric. Okay, those are some new ways to start thinking about it. Okay, and then what you want to do, it's really easy to talk about it with a bicep, okay? It's less simple when you start doing something like a squat or a lateral lunge. So take the time to think about that stuff ahead of time, okay? Okay, like right here, right? This grid right here. If you want to take a screenshot of this grid and like start learning this stuff, there's all the words that we were just talking about: extension, lateral flexion, horizontal adduction. Like parsing out what that means is tough. So here's a boom, boom, boom. Here's the major muscle, the major agonist muscle, the primary mover. Then we bring in the isolated function, okay? And they will ask you questions that are almost literally from this column. And then the common exercise, which will help bring it to life for you. It will help you understand, like, right? Gastrocnemius, okay? Your calf. Concentrically accelerates plantar flexion. Plantar is in your foot, right? Like we have a plantar wart. Plantar's warts are in the feet. Okay, so now you've connected that to, oh, okay, I'm concentrically accelerating plantar flexion. And then you're like, I don't know what that means. Well, it's a calf raise. So what muscles are you using as you do a calf raise? And how are you using those muscles? Okay. Kelsey, you have a question?
Okay, I don't even know if I want to say it out loud, but so
Like 1 or 5? Is it 1 or 5?
Well, 5 it's really bad, but it's actually really easy to remember, which is probably, so I texted my mentors a picture of the slide and I was like, I don't understand this. And one mentor said supination is like when you're holding a tray or like holding a cup of soup, your palm is out like that. That's what she said. That's what she said to do.
Soup, like you're serving soup.
Like soup. Yeah.
Serving soup. I like that.
And then my other mentor said, she said pronation is like, she's like, it's a really dirty way of thinking it, but if you're in prison, you're prone to get it in the butt.
Hey,
literally what she said.
You don't forget that, right? Like,
but I don't know if that helps anybody, but she told me to say it in the group chat. So there you go. It's out there.
Wait, but how is that even possible if you're pronation, you're in the prone position and you're laying on your back?
Yeah.
Am I just like going too far with this? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's okay.
Like, I don't understand
it's okay.
that.
It's okay. This is
know.
the most confusing part of like everything we've been studying. I won't even lie. I won't even lie. And it's because our body moves in three dimensions. right? So what is supine position in one sense, in a different part of the body, moving in a different way?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Erin, can I ask another question?
Yes, please do.
So Claire just brought up a good point, because I always thought supine was laying on your back. And if you look it up, it shows you that it's lying on your back.
Yes.
Did I say it wrong, you guys? I
Wait,
did it.
'cause
I said it wrong.
Oh my God, so I answered it right. I was so concerned about myself.
You guys, please forgive me.
That's okay.
I
Wait.
said it backwards. I said it backwards.
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite way of the way I remember it. Like I would think that supine would be like you're in Superman position, but it's not, right?
Yeah.
So I always think of it as supine is up. So if you're laying in your supine, you're up. You're facing up, right?
Yes, I got it backwards in my head just then. You see, this is my weak spot too, so it's okay. I'm glad you guys called
Okay.
that out.
So it's the opposite.
No, you were right. That makes sense then for Kelsey for your explanation.
For my
Prone.
prison. First of all,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
mine.
God, I'm a
Mentors,
loser.
not mine. I just want to make sure that's
I mean, that's
clear.
dirty. I'll never
I'm not
forget it.
thinking about prison. Oh Lord.
Okay.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Keep talking. Yep.
Okay, so when we're talking about the muscle action spectrum, so concentric activation, isometric activation, eccentric activation, like, and then there's the muscle functions. They're like different definitions.
Okay, so muscle action, iso, con, e,
Yep.
and then concentrically. Okay. All right, so we can spend a little bit of time on this. All right, let's start with an easy one. Let's start with the very bottom, triceps, okay? So the isolated function of the tricep is to concentrically accelerate elbow extension. All right.
Okay. Got it.
We got the elbow, okay?
Yeah.
Extension is when we're extending it. That's a nice, easy word, right? Extension is extending it, okay? So concentrically, which muscle's moving concentrically? Which one is getting more concentrated and tighter and shorter as we do that?
Tricep.
Your tricep. So triceps concentrically accelerate elbow extension.
Okay.
So it's really all it is it's a fancy way of describing what your body's doing. That's it. Okay, so then bicep. So, and that's why all of these say concentrically, because it's talking about the concentric movement that this muscle does, right? So concentrically, if we want that bicep to get concentric, okay, it's gonna accelerate elbow. Again, the elbow is the joint that it's working with. Flexion. Okay, making the joint angle smaller.
Okay.
Okay, so extension is making the angle bigger. Flexion is making it smaller. On top of, we're talking about this muscle in particular is getting concentric. That being said, bicep curl, which muscle is eccentric?
Your tricep.
Correct. All right, let's take a more complicated movement. All right, let's do gluteus maximus. All right, so we are concentrically, so we're squeezing the glute. We are making it tighten and dense, concentrated, okay? Accelerating hip extension. So what does extension mean again about the joint angle?
You're loosening it.
It's getting wider. The angle's getting wider. Okay, so right now you're sitting down. Your hips are at about a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means as we stand up, we're extending the hips. And when we sit down, the hips are in flexion. Okay, so that's the first part of that, lunging on the upward motion. So think about that, on the upward motion. So I'll ask you this question. As you're thinking about lunging on the upward motion, let's say your right leg is forward, you're in a forward lunge, you're at the bottom and you're starting to rise up, okay? Your gluteus is concentric, but is that on the right or is it on the left leg?
Left leg.
Left.
Left.
Your left leg is activated.
Do it. Do it.
Your left glute.
But what it's talking about here, okay, do it. Like actually do it right now. Do it. Do a forward lunge with your right leg forward. What we're looking for, okay, is which muscle, now you know it's the glute. And yes, the glute is working on both sides, okay? It is. You're in a lower body movement. Okay, concentrically accelerating the hip extension. So which leg is actually, where is that angle getting even larger on the hip?
On the
Which leg?
right.
On the right. That's where the angle is getting larger. Okay, and then external rotation. All right.
What does that mean, the external rotation?
So lunging on the upward motion. So that's the way that the hip moves, because the hip is a ball and socket joint. Think about that. So that joint can rotate.
So yeah, your right hip is on how you have to like make your right hip go out to the right side. That's what it's saying, right?
Yeah, so what we're looking at, right, is we're looking at a description. It's just a complex description of the muscle, what it's doing. Is it concentric, isometric, or eccentric? Okay, those are the options. Okay, then we're talking about the joint. Number one, which joint? Hip, spine, knee. And also then what we're talking about with the change in the joint angle. Okay, and just two options are extension and flexion. Okay, but then we can do another, because now we've got more, we move in more than one direction. We move in more than one dimension and more than one plane of motion. That's why now we have the add-ins of external rotation. Okay, so that's rotating to the outside slightly. Okay, and it's not a big rotation. But then you can see it in, like, for instance, the rectus abdominis one. Okay, so then we have even more. Concentrically accelerating spinal flexion. Then we also have lateral flexion, so shortening the angles of the joint laterally. And we have rotation in there. There's a lot of joints working in that, right? The primary mover, the primary agonist here is the rectus abdominis, but there's a lot of different things happening in a ball crunch is what it's supposed to be. I don't know what kind of ball crunch that is.
I think it's like one of those things that it's like, looks like, just like, I don't know, lean over it, right?
Sure, it could be you're leaning back on a stability ball, right? That's kind of what I picture with it because of the amount of movement you have inside of that. So, but that's how you're going to break it down in your test. Okay, what am I doing with the muscle? What joint am I using? Am I increasing or decreasing the angle? Am I going laterally? Am I rotating transversely? Is it external? Is it lateral? Is it an adduction or an abduction? As long as you kind of understand what all these mean, you can break down what they're describing. Was that at least semi-helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
After
Thank
we
you.
got through Erin's mistake on the prone and supine, you'll never forgive me for that.
I can't even form a sentence right now. So
that's where I'm at this week.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, Erin.
Yeah, I can I not share this now so I can see your faces bigger? Okay. There. Yes.
So, just a couple things, because it sounds like a lot of people are probably, feeling a little bit apprehensive.